BayRadio International, and the Great White Chief is here. Well, our Great White Chief, anyway. Rich Reynolds is back, our U.S. correspondent. How you doing?
So happy to be back. So happy to be over that show that was put on yesterday in Washington.
And what a show!
It was something.
Wasn't
it was like no other inauguration I've ever seen. So
you did enjoy it, after all.
I did. Well, I did. You know what? If truth be told, I love the pomp and circumstance. I love it in the UK. I love it in the States. I love different countries now. The president has to show up at a certain time. They have to walk a certain way, and I love all that. And I knew, somebody was posting online. They go, "What time does the inauguration start?" I said, "Always starts at noon on the 20th of January." And I love that sort of thing. I didn't like all the oligarchs in there. I didn't like.
They had the front row seat.
They really did.
The cabinet was sat behind them.
I know.
Wow.
Yeah.
How the world has changed.
They managed to get the Supreme Court in there, but anybody who saw this video or watched any of it noticed that Zuckerberg and Bezos and these guys were all front and center, man.
4 years ago, of course, there was a different crowd in the room.
Different crowd. Yeah.
I mean, they're all free now, of course.
Biden brought in. He had homeless people up there. He had
No, I'm not talking about the inauguration. I'm talking about in the room where they did it, because they had it inside.
God.
But if you remember that room time 4 years ago, there was the insurrection. Sorry, they're now been pardoned, and I forget what they were called now.
The insurrectionists.
No, there was another word.
You mean the group? You mean the Proud Boys?
There was another word. The hostages. That's what he called them. He called them hostages. That was it.
That's right.
I knew I needed to remember when I saw that.
That's right.
Yeah. Anyway.
But there was a lot of talk about what was very, very cold there, but the country has gone through cold snaps before, and it is January, for God's sake. And so for that, Trump was the one who had the final call to say, hey, I want to do it indoors, and instead of 80,000 or 800,000 people, there were only 800, and there was a feeling that there just weren't going to be that many people attending this. So, but there were people who spent $5,000 to just be front and center and be able to sit close to the
Well, I hope those oligarchs paid a bit for being in the front row.
Oh, yeah.
Well, they got the money.
Oh, yeah. We're all paying for that.
This is where we are then. Donald Trump beginning his first full day back in the White House after signing dozens of executive orders following that inauguration. He started the process of withdrawing the U.S. from the World Health Organization and Paris climate deal, also declared a national emergency at the southern border. He issued nearly 1,600 pardons in connection with the Capitol riots on the 6th of January 2021. Many prisoners are expected to be released within hours. Meanwhile, Elon Musk, one of Trump's closest confidants, has responded to criticism for making what some have described as a Nazi salute at a post-inauguration event. Plenty has been going on, and we'll take a look at most of it right now. Where do you want to start?
Well, you've pretty much covered all of it. So good night, everybody. I'm getting in the car and going home because we just covered everything. But certainly what he did was he did something that nobody's ever done before, because Biden 4 years ago signed 8 executive orders afterwards. He went back to the White House and he sat down at the desk and signed 8 orders and said, "Okay, I'm going out for a McChicken," and he went to all the balls. They go to all these balls tonight, of course. But Trump attended this gigantic rally at what's called the Capital One Center, which is where the basketball team plays. The
bank, right? Capital One.
Capital One, yeah.
Bank, yeah.
Yeah, it's a credit card and a bank. Anyhow, but he went to this ball and then went back to the White House and signed all these executive orders.
I love the way he was being told which one was which. He was like,
yeah, he had them lined up, and he just sat there and signed them. But I think what has a lot of people alarmed is that, and it is also my opinion, that some of them are just being contrary. Some of them are just, I'm doing this because Biden didn't like doing this. So he hated it, so I'm going to love it, and vice versa. And I just don't think that's a good way to govern. The whole idea of pardoning 1,500, let's call them what they are. They are criminals. They're not patriots. They're criminals. They actually broke into the Capitol and caused millions of dollars worth of.
And we shouldn't forget that a number of police personnel died as well on that day.
They did. And one, or I just think it's one of the rioters died, a woman. So it was all really quite. It was a nasty period. It was really a dirty period.
Unsavory.
Very unsavory in American history. But to let them all off without looking at the situation and say, well, there's some people that just they got caught up in the moment and they charged into the Capitol. Maybe they were carrying a flag or wearing a costume or something like that. But then there are these other people who are breaking windows and, going into Nancy Pelosi's office, putting their feet up on her desk and worse. And worse. And those people should be treated accordingly. So, but for him to let them off and then complain about Joe Biden letting his son off by saying, Joe
Biden let off the planet, basically.
Yeah.
And we'll come to that as well, obviously.
Yeah.
So a golden age is what's being promised, the second Trump era, hence the glory days from Bruce Springsteen there. Is that the way that you see it, Rich?
No, it isn't. He goes in by saying that the past 4 years have been the worst years in American history. And
Joe was sitting right next to him.
Yeah.
He really roasted him.
He really, and then there were a lot of cutaways to Joe and Kamala who were sitting there going, the
can't really say a lot.
Economy's in really good shape, and inflation's coming down, and the country's at peace right now. We have gone through some rocky periods, but Trump is taking credit now. Trump is taking credit, of course, for the release of the hostages in Israel. Which,
well, you can't say they didn't have anything to do with it.
They may have had something to do, but to what degree, nobody really knows. But I just think that the way he takes credit for everything, he never ever admits he's wrong. I think that's the thing that kind of irks me the most, the braggadocio and the I'm right and you're wrong kind of thing. But there are some other unsavory things that were said.
Well, American voters, this is what they wanted.
Yeah, and about 55% of the people are really approve the fact that the National Guard's going to be called out to work down on the border to keep people from coming in. So that's what a national emergency is. So whenever
allows you to bring in the National Guard.
Whenever the president says a national emergency, that means it's not quite martial law, but what it means is that I'm calling out the military to help out with the situation. So he, God love him. He ran on this platform. He ran on saying,
well, he carried
I'm going
on.
to secure the borders. He never stopped. It was borders. And I'd get in discussions with people, including my own family, going, is this a real problem where you live? And, when you dig deep down, in very few cities, is it a problem? A lot of people, he's going to be looking at getting rid of anybody who is a criminal. So if you're an illegal alien and you've committed a crime, you can pretty much figure that you're toast.
And what's wrong with that, though?
No, there's nothing wrong with it. And to me, that's one of the good things.
Right.
That's one of the things I look at and I go, you know what? I would kind of look at that thing. Getting rid of people who are picking grapes and picking apples and that sort of thing.
Well, you have to wonder who's going to do it if they're not there. Well, no, we know that doesn't happen. Look at Britain after Brexit.
Yeah.
It didn't happen. That wasn't anybody.
Yeah. And so this is a case where I think it's a good thing if you're targeting that. If you're just going to shake the tree and say, well, anybody who's in the country illegally, you're not going to get rid of whatever it is, 20 million people. It's you could be in office for 40 years and it's still not going to happen. But if you're going to prioritize that to make the street safe, everybody's on board. 100% of the people are on board with that. It's how you do it. That's the big thing. Are you going to do it humanely? Are you going to do it with any sort of thought? Or are you just going to rush in there with the cops? The last time a society went in with cops and started knocking on doors and arresting people, that did not end well.
Read the book.
Yeah, that did not end well. You could ask anybody here in Europe. So
America's decline is over, though.
Well, yeah, we were a really crappy country, and now we're a great country now.
Great again.
Oh, we're great again. But it's I think things can be pretty great. There are some things that need improvement, but to come out here and say now that I'm in charge, everything is going to be great. There are a lot of people who are buying into that, and they think, well, yeah, only Trump can fix it. If you're one of those people who believes that, then you had a good day yesterday.
Well, a lot of voters did,
but half the people didn't. 49% of the people did not.
That's less than half.
Well, okay.
Oh, dear.
Don't make me.
Let's move on.
Don't make me spank you.
Let's move on to Elon Musk. He has been responding to the backlash over that gesture at the Trump rally. Depending on who you are and what you believe and what you think, it could look really bad or rather unfortunate.
Yeah.
And it's difficult. Only he knows, right?
I don't know if everybody has seen the video or seen the still, but it's anybody.
The still is worse than the video.
It's awful. But anybody can get a screen grab and make anybody look bad.
Well, actually,
the two of us.
There was one of you this morning I saw,
my God.
which didn't get posted.
You know, what are you laughing at, Moody? Moody is the culprit here. He sent me a meme with Trump and with me, and we look remarkably alike.
Yes,
remarkably.
You do. Could be brothers.
Could be brothers.
Different sides of the divide, obviously.
Very much so. Very much so. But yeah, I think if you pull a screen grab of anything, you can make it look like a Nazi salute. But I think that. The people who saw it and are on the Trump team looked at it and go, that's not what he meant. And the second thing is they're going, well, that's okay. It's all okay. But my point is that if a Democrat had done that, if Barack Obama had done that and done that same sort of salute, you wouldn't hear the end of it for the next 40 years. It just wouldn't. So it depends on what team you're playing on as to how you look at this sort of thing. But if I were Mr. Musk, I would be. And he doesn't really care what I think.
Well, his response was, frankly, they need better dirty tricks. The everyone is Hitler attack is so tired.
Yeah. Well, you know what? Everybody's a little, everybody's seen that movie and they don't like the way it ends. Mm-hmm. So
why is the world bracing for Trump, hoping for the best, and unprepared for the worst?
Because nobody knows what he's going to do. He says he's going to buy Greenland. He says he's going to buy Canada and make it the 51st state. And I'm sure our Canadian friends are just delighted at that thought. But
I think they think he's a hoser.
He's a hoser. He is a hoser. That is one of the great Canadian words.
I love it.
I love hoser. But it's that's not going to happen. But I have to tell you, the more I think about it and the way people are reacting to this Greenland thing, this could happen. I mean, I don't say that it should, but they want Greenland because of all the mineral rights and the gas, and you're giving me the face.
Because it's just not what the Greenlanders are saying.
I don't know what the Greenlanders
They're
are
like,
saying.
no way.
Are they? I mean, would they rather be?
They're saying they should have the choice, aren't they?
Oh no, absolutely. They should absolutely have the choice. But it comes between being owned by Denmark or being owned by the U.S. And if the U.S. waves a lot of money in front of them, I don't know. I think money may talk in this situation.
I think they kind of are allowed to decide their own fates, actually.
Yeah,
they're not really owned as such by Denmark.
That's very true. And they were really clear about that. Nobody owns a person. Nobody owns our land and that whole things. Or, it could end up, if they think they're going to be the 51st state, that's not happening. You could ask the people in Puerto Rico, because Puerto Rico's been a property of the United States for I don't know how many years, and they are not a state.
How's that going for them?
They would love to be a state, but they're treated like the poor child down in the Caribbean. But I don't know. I just think it's all kind of interesting in kind of a crazy way that he wants to buy another country. The Panama Canal thing really alarms me because he's talking about going in with military force. And I remember when
he's banging on about China involved there again, isn't he?
Yeah, he was saying that China kind of runs the Panama Canal, and that's so far.
And actually, on the fact-checking front on that, they've got an interest in a couple of the ports, I think.
Yeah, that may be, but that's true everywhere. That's true. I went to, I think I was in Porto, and I think the Chinese literally own the port of Porto. I mean, they bought it years ago. They were in financial straits, and I think it's Porto. Don't quote me on that. But anyhow,
they just said it live on the radio.
I apologize to anybody from Porto if I'm wrong on that. But there are a couple of cities and countries where the Chinese physically own the port.
We're waiting on the tariff scenario as well, aren't we? Tariffs against Canada, China, Mexico, EU even maybe, UK.
Yeah, and every economist that's looked at this thing has said there's no way when you impose a tariff that the people who are going to pay the tariff are the ones who are buying the products. It's not. China's not going to pay the tariff. Canada's not going to pay the tariff. The person buying the snow tires for their car or the little widgets that they give their kids, I mean, that's who's paying for it. And Trump keeps saying, well, not according to my economics, and I have an economics degree from Wharton, and I'm going to do that. But when you have people with Nobel Prizes who are saying, no, that's not the case where it is, I think he's going to end up backing off. I think, as a lot of people do, he's using this entirely as leverage. I'll do that if he did it with a couple of countries to try to increase the amount of soybeans sold and corn.
Well, I think Spain struggled last time because of the olives as well, olive oil and stuff. So he whacked tariffs on that, which didn't help. The Spaniards weren't very happy about.
I don't think you're going to see a lot of tariffs, but what you may end up seeing because of the pressure, you're going to see more American products being sold in these countries where they're squeezing them, and that also applies to things like NATO, to get them to toss in more money. For
2% was always the thing.
Yes.
Germany have only just reached that again, 2.1 pledge this year. For the first time, I think they've got to that level since the Cold War. But they have actually put a lot of money into Ukraine. But there have been talks about closer to 4 or 5%. Which is, some countries are paying a lot more. That's, again, remains to be seen where we go with that one. I mean, the US pulling out of NATO, everybody's been talking bravely about it in Europe and how they would stand up to Russia, not at least the EU itself. But you can see it being a bit of a problem if it happens.
Well, right. And one of the big things concerning Russia right now that we're all facing and we're all thinking about is how he's talking about how he's going to resolve the situation in Ukraine and the whole conflict over there, and he says, I'm going to...
There was a quote, actually, he said that, and this was just yesterday, Vladimir Putin is destroying Russia by not making a deal to end the war with Ukraine. This is after the inauguration. He should make a deal. I think Russia's going to be in big trouble, Trump said, saying that he was prepared to meet him.
I think that's true. I think that's absolutely true, that Putin has really destroyed his own country by doing this, and that the Ukrainians, as you and I have talked for a year, they're not going to give up. I mean, this is their country. They're not going to surrender. They have no reason to. This is, they'll be beaten back as far as militarily, but this is where they hang their hats. This is where they raise their children, and they're not going to suddenly become Russians. They become Russians. They gave up on that stuff back in 1990, and it's just my opinion. I think they're going to hold on as long as they possibly can, but hundreds of thousands of Russians have lost their lives in this thing, and they've destroyed a lot of Russian families, and for what? What's the end game on this? So
interest rates are something like 20 plus, 25 even maybe percent. Okay, what about Trump citing his own victories as a sign then that he'll lift the country that's in decline? You said earlier it was on its way up.
I think the country's just fine. There are a lot of problems. There continues to be a drug problem, as there are a lot of places in the world. There continues to be an inflation problem that is slowly coming down, but just not as much for people. He was talking about we're going to drill, baby, drill, which he said
that quote's been coming back and back again and again.
Constantly comes back, and I have a family member who told me when Trump takes office, the price of gas is going to drop down $2 a gallon, and that's not going to happen. The United States is already the largest producer of energy in the world. They accomplished that under George Bush 20 years ago, and so
you hang on to it.
Yeah, well, that's right. I mean, that always can change, because remember when Saudi Arabia was the largest, and Iran and Iraq and all of those, and because of instability, that's not the case anymore. But can you drill a little bit more? But I think that what's happening here is that, and where Democrats are, is we don't want people drilling on federal lands. We don't want you going into the state parks, the national parks like Yellowstone and beautiful parks, and put oil derricks in there and try and frack gas and dig for oil there. We're just trying to keep that, and places like Alaska, which are pristine in most areas.
So, we just mentioned Greenland, didn't we?
And Greenland, there is that. So I think that. Trump keeps saying, hey, I'm going to make the country even greater. Every country can use a real tweak, can use something that they can do better. He's got everybody whipped up right now saying things are going to be a lot better. And for people who are living in the Rust Belt, in the Midwest where they've lost factories and stuff, I understand this. Having lived in those areas myself, I know that it's easy to get people whipped up going, hey, we're going to bring new industry here. We're going to bring gas. We're going to bring oil and that sort of thing. It's real easy to say that. It's really hard to do it.
All right. So we talked about the pardoning of the January the 6th rioters. There are a number of other things on the agenda. The Paris Climate Agreement's out the window.
Yeah. What do you think about that?
Well, it seems to be taking a long time to implement. Now, whether throwing it out completely is the way to go, I'm not sure. But, the World Health Organization is also something that went out the window.
Why get rid of the World Health Organization?
Well, certainly the U.S. involvement, anyway.
Well, the whole reason behind that is to prevent people from dying of diseases, of eradicating diseases. It's an entirely altruistic organization.
I think a lot of his point in these areas was that certainly he alluded to it while he was holding that press conference while signing away all these things, saying basically that the US pays an inordinate amount of money compared to everybody else into a number of these organizations, NATO included.
Well, he's probably right in a lot of cases, but the fact is, if you're going to be the largest and most powerful economy in the world, more is expected of you. So that is. But people want that to begin at home, certainly. Yeah. I think you're right. I think that they think, we're not getting enough back from it. What is our investment in this thing? What, are we wasting our time? Should we be helping solve American problems rather than the world's problems? I think, to me, that's very short-sighted because the whole world is kind of integrated. Now we're in a global economy. But he's got everybody saying that there's an American economy and then everybody else, and that's where the rubber meets the road. Yeah.
Well, there are another couple of big economies around as well, aren't there?
Correct.
Of course. So, will he remake America in his second term? It doesn't look like there's very many people that can stop him this time. First time around, there were a few people around that could say no or block some of the things that he wanted to do. This time around, they're all yes men, aren't they?
Yeah, all of them. I mean.
And women, sorry.
By turning around and saying, the most important thing that's involved here is that you be subservient to him and that you be on his team and you believe in him. And if you don't believe in him...
the big tech guys have got the idea. They're doing it. They're kissing butt.
They are kissing, and it was... They're going to be big drivers in this thing. We all know that. I mean, these are when you have the four richest men in the world up there, and I wasn't sure in the videos that I saw if the guy who runs ByteDance was up there. I know he was invited. Was he?
I don't know if he was there. Actually,
I know he was invited to be there. So that whole
the TikTok thing it's back in the room again now.
Back in the room again.
It went dark on Saturday. Now. It's back for 75 days.
I know.
So it's something else that he's going to make a choice on and decide on. And I think the deputy Chinese premier was there, wasn't he? The deputy.
Yeah.
So we'll see. I don't know what's going to happen with that either. But, these are the sorts of things that he was saying he was going to do. And if there's anything with Donald Trump, it is that he always tries to do what he said he was going to do.
Yeah, he does. He doesn't sweep anything under the carpet.
Unpolitical politician we know.
He is, but there are. I heard one person quoted on television yesterday on American TV saying, the great thing about Trump is that he always does what he says he's going to do. That's not true.
He does absolutely not true. He does do things that we weren't expecting. Also,
he does.
I think we should add.
He does. But the whole thing about we're going to build the wall and Mexico's going to pay for it. Number one, you didn't build the wall, much of the wall. Number two, Mexico didn't pay for it.
Perhaps not every single thing that he's claimed.
Not every single thing.
But he probably fulfills more of his promises than most politicians.
Yeah. You know what? If you look at it like a basketball player, you're going to miss 100% of the shots you never take. And yesterday, he came out there and he took 100 shots, and some of them are going to stick.
Some are going to stick, some aren't.
Yeah, and I feel the same as I got to believe most Americans in that I hope he succeeds. I really do. I hope the country is better. I hope it's stronger. I hope the economy is better. I hope
he stops the wars, and I hope he doesn't start any.
Yeah, I know. And if he does that, God bless him, then he's had a great presidency. Everybody wins.
So yesterday we saw the launch of cryptocurrencies, Melania and Trump, and they were doing quite well, weren't they? Soaring at the outset there, but today on their backside,
so much money yesterday, so much.
Well, what's happened in 24 hours? What?
They lost so much money today. It's all, but that's not real money. It's all just paper money, and when they launched it, what did you call them?
Paper money. It's
Trump.
Well, it was because there's got a dollar in the front of it. It looks like Trump and Melania.
Yeah. In so many ways. And so I the fact of whether or not a president and his wife should have a cryptocurrency.
Yeah, that's something to be thought about, really, isn't it?
Because we know
especially launching the day before the inauguration.
Right, and we know how the market moves. The stock market itself is very twitchy, and all somebody has to do is, for instance, when Trump was president, the first time he would say, "You know what I'm thinking of doing," and whatever he thought would move the market. And all of a sudden, I'm looking at my portfolio, going, why did we lose all this money today? Because he said, I think I'm going to attack Greenland. I think now he didn't say that, but he would say something very out there. And
just let me see Elon Musk's shares go up and down when he says
exactly.
Something.
It's like you're watching, you're dipping, or he'd say, you know what I think I'm going to do, and all of a sudden the mark takes your portfolio takes a real jump. But I just don't think with all the tension in the world, with so much money at stake, I don't think a president should have this. I think that's a bad idea to be in control of essentially your own currency.
Well, the traders have crashed them out now anyway, so they're basically bombed. It's just a bit bonkers.
I know.
See that you launch it one day and then the next day it crashes.
Well, do you think that crypto is a real thing here to stay, or do you think it's?
Depends which one, I suppose.
Yeah, I guess. Well, I've had a lot of people try to pitch
which currency,
Yeah, a lot of people pitch me on crypto online mostly, and through different veins, and I just say it's not a real thing. I have a portfolio, and it's with real money and real stocks and that sort of thing. And I hate to sound
Bitcoin is real money.
Well, I hate to be overly traditional about it, but I kind of like to stay in my lane with something I understand. And I think if anybody who says I'm an expert in Bitcoin, I really understand it. I think there's a little fabrication there, because I don't think anybody really.
I think sometimes it's difficult to call, but there are people who certainly deal with it every day. And actual Bitcoin is up 1.49% today, okay. $103,555,000, 60 cents no less. I think it depends on which one.
Yeah.
Anyway, let's move swiftly on from that. And what about TikTok then? Its ultimate fate still lying with Trump. 75 days. Which way is he going to go?
The nice thing about that is that he's got a lot of people who are looking to buy TikTok now, and why they didn't step up 6 months ago or a year ago when initially
we'll wait to see what happens.
They said,
obviously.
well, let's wait and see what happens. Then they found out they were that the Supreme Court and the legislators were serious about shutting them down because of security concerns. I think that what happens is that now people are stepping up, and the market value is, what did they say? The market value is $20 billion. It might be more than that, over $20 billion for TikTok.
Well, it's just a drop in the ocean for somebody like Musk, isn't
exactly.
it?
And Musk, if you're Musk, you've got to be looking at it because it's the most successful, or one of the most successful platforms out there. There's no question.
But Trump said, he was asked why he changed his mind, and he said if China's going to get information about young kids, to be honest, I think we have bigger problems with that, because basically, it's young kids that use it. But if you remember, a large part of his vote were the Barron crew, the kids of Barron's age. He was quite responsible for sort of rallying those people together, and they're the TikTok users.
But he did. But everybody needs to remember that initially he said, if I'm president, I'm going to shut down TikTok. And then Joe Biden said, I'm going to shut down TikTok. The Supreme Court just said they're going to shut down TikTok. And now all of a sudden he becomes president. He says, well, I'm going to give it a 75-day extension. I have no problem with that. I mean, but the fact of the matter is, past 75 days, there's widespread support among Republicans to shut it down, as well as Democrats. So it's completely bipartisan. There are a lot of senators and Congress people that want to shut down TikTok because of these concerns with the Chinese. And so I think there's a good chance it goes away. But more than that, I believe somebody's going to walk in with really big pockets and buy. And why wouldn't you? If you had the money, this thing's going to make a...
Well, they were all sat on the front bench. They could at the front bench yesterday. They could any of those could have it.
Yeah,
all right. Let's just wrap up with Joe Biden, as we should. In the final moments of his presidency, he was preemptively pardoning loads of family members, his brothers James, Frank, his sister Valerie, and various other people as well. The COVID response chief, Anthony Fauci, members of the House 6th of January riot investigation to prevent what he called unjustified and politically motivated prosecutions. He said, our nation owes these public servants a debt of gratitude for their tireless commitment, worried that Trump was going to go after them?
Because he said he would. Mm-hmm. And whether he actually did or if cooler heads would prevail, I really don't know. Nobody really knows how that wind is going to blow that particular day. But I believe it's irresponsible to go out there and say, I'm going to put Dr. Fauci in jail. Dr. Fauci is 81 years old and has been a public servant his whole life. And whether you think he handled the COVID crisis well or not well, that's up for debate. But granted, the whole world went through a very, very difficult time for those 2 years, and there are a lot of people who either dropped the ball or ran very well with the ball, but saying because people screwed up and because they disagreed with you. This is when he was telling people to inject bleach into their own bodies, and here's a very learned doctor saying, "Nah, don't go killing yourself doing that if I were you," because people were hurting themselves by doing that because Trump said to do it. At the end of the day, he has no medical degree, and so.
Okay,
I think I just think that by saying, hey, if I'm in office, I'm going to arrest all these people and put people in jail. I said that's the fact that Joe Biden has to do that he has to say, I'm going to pardon these people before Trump has a chance to do anything. It just sends a bad signal.
Ultimately, then. We've not got very long to do this, but the inside story of Biden's undoing, the infighting, the frustration, and an insular inner circle.
Yeah, there have been some. There was a really interesting piece on the BBC about that, and it's great reading if you can call it up. I think it still might be on their website. Yeah, it's just wonderful. It's about all the good things he's done. He's done a million good things, but basically they're saying his undoing was. He didn't choose to work on projects that people could see immediately. He didn't say, as they sometimes do in American cities, fill the potholes, shovel the snow.
Things that sell.
That you could see it. We go, my taxes are low, or my they pull the snow off the ground or fill the potholes.
Empty the trash.
Empty the trash. That's exactly right. As places like New York, what he chose to do was say, you know what, we're going to build bridges. Well, when these bridges are going to go up? Long after Joe Biden is gone, and I think history is going to look back and go, he
built some bridges.
He did a pretty good job. He people feel that he messed up the whole Afghanistan thing by pulling out. And
how it was how the pullout went.
Yeah, and not only that, Afghanistan, but also the border. He didn't make the border a priority, and the Republicans walked in and said to everybody, whether it was a priority or not, they said this is a priority, and the Trump supporters went, yes, it is. We didn't think it was, but yes, it is, and that kind of was his undoing. And then Kamala stepped in, and she really didn't have much to work with.
Looked like it was a bit too late, really, in hindsight, by that stage, yeah?